All right. Is it working now? Is it working now? It's still working. Let's see that. There we go. A little better. A little better angle while we're at it. Okay, sorry about the camera there. Had some GoPro issues.
So you want to snow check a snowmobile. So basically this year you have 1, 2, 3 choices.
Finally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Used to be 2 for a long time.
Yeah. So we'll get to Arctic Cat in a moment, but Polaris. Here it is, the end of January.
Clutches are still flying off of turbo sleds.
I'm sure you guys have heard all the rumors about what everybody's coming out with for 2025. What say you? What do you think that Polaris and Skidoo is coming out with for 2025?
Well, I mean, I think theoretically, from a marketing aspect, you have to look at what riders have really been like super stoked about the last few years. And you know, these 146 like super short track, like big power turbo, you know, that seems to be the move, and Skidoo's already got that. You know, their 146 free ride turbo has been like a super popular sled. I mean, that thing's everywhere. On every YouTube channel you see right now, somebody's got a 146 turbo do, or 146 Lynx.
Yeah.
Or the 3900, I guess. And you know, same with the 9R. I mean, there's a lot of 146 9Rs out there.
Well, let's talk about Polaris.
Polaris
specifically.
Polaris specifically. Yeah. I mean, I think before they do something new, they need to figure out their shit with their current situation. And I think everybody agrees. I mean, there's a lot of really aggravated people that have put up with it for the last few years that are now speaking out like pretty heavily. Like, hey, you need to fix this. Dawson, Shiflita, or however you say his last name, up in rides with Muskoka. He put out a really aggressive,
I didn't see it.
He put out a pretty aggressive post on Facebook the other day. He's like, Polaris, what the hell? Like, this is the new clutch bolt. This is the new billet clutch, and it flew off of my sled.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. Well, he was on a pole up between some trees. And so I don't know what Polaris is going to do. I really can't speak to that.
I mean, I feel like Polaris is never been the poster child for reliability and durability. I mean, they've always kind of been the energy and the stoke and the, you know, they're riders too, and they want to ride, and you know.
I think so, but I think, you know, now with social media being the way that it is, right, it's moved in the direction where people critique things a lot more. It's much more instantly available to see when someone's clutch goes to the moon, while they foul a spark plug at the same time.
Well, the spark plug thing.
That's never going to change. That's just the reality with Polaris. That's never going to change. They said in their video with Snow West that it was going to change this year, and it didn't. So, yeah.
Speaking of Snow West, did you see how the Snowest Forums called us out?
Yeah, they replied to us, and then I replied on my personal page. I'm like, sorry, I don't know how you did that. Yeah, no, that was really cool. Yeah. They were like, hey, where do you ride? You don't tell anybody where you ride. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah. You're welcome. Come find us.
All right, back to the topic at hand.
Yeah.
So Polaris, here's what I'm going to say. I mean, everybody says, okay, they're going to come out with the 9R boost.
Yeah, that seems to be the talk of the town, now you mention it.
Yeah. And as far as, like, fixing their problems, I just don't see... That's just never been their...
That's not their MO.
No. That's just never been their deal.
It's not their deal. They do have a couple new engineers this year that have mentioned that they want to change that, but they're still at the mercy.
I mean, about the time that it gets...
mercy of people higher up than them. I mean, we know how engineers work because we're friends with one.
It seems like about the time that Polaris gets to the point where, you know, it's time to write a sled off or say that, you know, there's just too many problems. They come out with a new design or new something, and then that's the talk. So I don't know that they're going to come out and say, hey, all the problems are fixed. I mean, that's what we're coming out with. I just don't see them doing that. Yeah. They haven't done that in the 30 years that I've followed Polaris or watched them. So I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like they're going to start losing following if they don't at this point, though. I mean,
I don't. I think
you don't. So I've watched this. To be fair, they are kind of like Arctic Cat guys, where they're just so dedicated to the brand.
Well, and it's more the passion. I mean, you can see the passion that their whole people and their whole culture. It's a culture.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of passion for their product, and that is what carries Polaris is the passion. And I've always said this, and I stick to it, and that is that I think Polaris puts a Band-Aid on the reliability, the mechanical issues, and Skidoo puts a Band-Aid on the handling issues.
Correct.
And it's just tomato. Which one do you want? You know, do you want to try to fix the handling, or do you want to try to fix the durability in the motor?
Yeah. But we also 2 years ago would have said the same thing about Arctic Cat.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of the talk of the town.
Well, so let's dive into the Arctic Cat. So they're coming out with the 858 catalyst. So I actually inquired about one. I called a local Arctic Cat dealer. Or no, I put a submission on their deal for them, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they asked preferred method of communication, and I put email, and he called me. but whatever. And each time he calls, he's like, hey, I'm like, this is who from where? Oh, it's so-and-so from so-and-so? Oh, okay. So anyway, and he's just like, oh, yeah.
I know exactly who you're talking about, too, because that's how he is.
And he's just like, oh, you're going to have to get, I mean, if you want one of these, I mean, if you're serious, you're going to have to, like, do it immediately, or you're not even going to have a chance. Like, they're so popular. I'm like, yeah, the economy's just smoking right now. Everybody's got money burning out of their pockets. I mean, like, people are, like, you can't buy a sled to save your life, I told him. It's like, it's a little different story than COVID, folks. Yeah, it's not, people are dumping sleds left and right, and manufacturers have got leftovers, and I mean, it's just a whole different deal. So I kind of laughed when he was talking like that, and that's when I kind of wrote him off.
Especially considering there's a couple 600 sitting on another Arctic Cat dealer's lot. I'm not going to say which ones, but anyway. So they're still sitting there.
Speaking of the Arctic Cat in particular, I do think that I'm super excited to ride one, and I'm probably not going to snow check one. There's a possibility I could, but more than likely what I would do is I really want to ride one first, and then if I'm really in love with it, I'll find one and buy one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. What do you think about the Arctic Cat? What do you think about the Catalyst? I mean, you snow checked one and then bailed out of it. I did snow check one and then long story, but bailed out of it. I'm not trying to call you out, but no. I mean, in a polite way I am, but
it's funny because it's still on the lot. Anyway, no, I did snow check one, and that's because it, I mean, numbers wise, it was looking pretty badass. I mean, it was, X amount lighter than the Matrix. It's
the weight is what's got me so excited.
The weight, and like all the podcasts, everybody that's rode one is like, yeah, this thing's awesome for an NA sled. Like it'll keep up with any other etc. NA sled, and it's a 600, so it's easy on fuel. It's light. It's this. It's that. And I was like, yeah, I want one. And then as far as backing out of it, there's more. I'd rather not say on the internet why. I might have already. I don't know. But, now, like, and it was funny, too, because, like, I backed out of it, and then they announced the 858 and the gauge and all the cool stuff. And I actually do think, like, I didn't back out of it necessarily because I didn't want it. Backed out of it for a combination of reasons that I'd rather not say. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm glad I did, because the 858 with that G8 gauge that connects to your Garmin inReach, it connects to your phone, and it's all supposed to be integrated. That sounds pretty promising.
I agree.
And I think technology-wise, that's really cool. And then onto the chassis, it's a completely top-to-bottom redesigned chassis. Like, it's not...
Yeah, they didn't copy anything.
Copy anything other than a couple of the skid parts.
Right.
It's 100% top-to-bottom brand new. And that's exciting for anybody. I mean, except for people who are, maybe skeptical of it.
I agree.
And again, it's one of those things, you got to ride it before you decide. And I would love to ride one. I really would. Like, especially with the 858 on there, 165 horsepower, and it's lighter than the Matrix that I currently ride that has 165 horsepower. Like,
well, reports are with fluids 50 to 55 pounds less than a Polaris.
Yeah. Which is
50 to 55 pounds less than a Skidoo.
Yeah, so 100 pounds,
less than a Skidoo.
Dude, that thing's going to be rowdy.
I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I can't... Yeah, and not to mention that, I mean, if there is one thing that Arctic Cat has always done right since the beginning of time, it's they look badass.
They do. They look so badass.
And the sharp edges on that thing, my God.
It looks killer.
It does.
It's like easily the most killer looking sled on the snow right now.
For sure.
And everybody thought that the free ride, like this year's free ride, looked badass. Nah. The Arctic Cat stole the show, man. The Arctic Cat stole the show.
No, 100%. I think, and they don't even have cool stickers.
No, they're like not even stickered. Like, that's the funny thing. Like, it just says freaking Mountain Cat on the side, right? Like, or it just says 600 right now. It says 600. It'll say 858 next year.
Well, and that's always Polaris's claim to fame is BNG. You know what BNG means?
No.
Bold new graphics.
Oh yeah. And see, that is true. I mean, it's funny because I go around town when I do have my sled on my deck, and everybody's like, "Man, that thing looks so badass! Look at those stickers!" And it's like, "Yep, they're just stickers." Like, if you took that off, you'd be like, "What the hell is that thing?"
That's funny.
Yeah, no, I mean, because the Matrix really doesn't look a whole lot different from the Axis. Like, unless you're a sled guy, you don't know.
To me, now I might get some criticism for it, and I have. To me, the Matrix looks identical to a 2013 to 15 XM Skidoo. I mean, if you took...
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, dude. If you took a Matrix and put it... I'll show you some pictures side by side. And put it next to a Skidoo and put the same wrap on, you'd probably get on the wrong sled. You'd probably get on the wrong sled.
Yeah. I think you're right and wrong. The main like from the seat forward, yes, I agree with that. But from the seat back,
that's all anybody looks at. Well, it's all anybody looks at is the seat forward.
Yeah,
they don't look. They only look at the front end.
So different on the back end.
Yeah, but I mean, if you just took the Skidoo part off and just put like Matrix all over it.
I mean,
on the Skidoo.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say about Skidoo. I have owned Skidoos.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Back to Arctic Cat real quick. They need a dual rail option, man.
Oh yeah.
They need to do that. And I think, what podcast was it? It was one of the Snow West podcasts where they were talking with one of the Arctic Cat guys, and it sounds like they're considering it as a thing. To have an option.
Well, I think they're considering it, but not for 2025.
No. It's going to be a couple years out, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll be straight up.
It'll be a whole new chassis.
Straight up. Yeah. I'll be straight up. I don't think I personally will buy one or even consider snow checking one until there's a dual rail option.
I would have to ride one.
You're right. I mean,
I would have to ride one.
You're right, because they did say that this doesn't ride like the old Alpha.
Yeah. I'd have to ride one.
Yeah.
Let me ride one again on so-so snow, and I'll tell you my answer. I think I would probably want the dual rail, but
because deep powder days, like watching guys that have an Alpha, it's pretty undeniable that on deep powder days, that's a pretty badass setup.
Well, and the thing is I wouldn't buy one for deep snow. I've got a turbo Skidoo for that, so I would buy one for light snow.
Yeah, but once you do get stuck, the Alpha's really nice. It's easy to clean out.
Yeah. So on to the Skidoo.
Yeah. Anyway,
I've owned Skidoos for, since forever. And they're great. And just the engineering and reliability, I don't think anybody can ever compete with them on that. Like I said earlier, as far as the handling and side handling and all that stuff, I think that they put Band-Aids on the chassis like T-Motion and Flex Edge Track and those sort of things to make it handle better instead of actually making it handle better.
Yeah.
The torsion springs are, in my opinion, stupidest thing ever.
It's just dated.
It's just stupid.
It's so dated.
It's just stupid, in my opinion. Now, like I said, I bought plenty of them with it, and I take it out. But what I am going to say about Skidoo that may be even surprising to you is that I don't think Skidoo has the right to call a Gen 5 different than a Gen 4. I think the only thing that's different is the panels, the headlights, and they smoked up the engine to give it 20 more horsepower.
Yeah.
I mean, what else did they do to the actual chassis? If you look at a Polaris Matrix,
yeah.
Now here's a funny thing. So Skidoo changes the shocks and some of the spindles and things like that, but they don't actually change the chassis. And Polaris actually changes the chassis from Matrix to Axis to Matrix, but everything else fits. The spindles, the shocks, all that shit's the same.
Yeah.
So it's an actual chassis upgrade, whereas I believe, and I'm going to get a lot of criticism on this, I don't care, I believe that a Gen 5 doesn't deserve the status of a Gen 5.
I agree. I mean, and it's funny to me that people say that it rides so much differently. And it does ride different, but and that might be.
It's all the add-on bolt-on stuff. It's not the actual chassis.
And
they have a 15-inch track on some of them instead of the 16-inch flex edge.
Yeah,
they have different shocks.
The expert, they take out the T-Motion and say it's a T-Motion X or whatever it is.
Yeah, why would you call something T-Motion that has nothing to do with T-Motion?
Like Skidoo, if you ever see this, you need to stop calling it T-Motion for the love of all that's holy.
Yeah.
Like, please. Because you're losing customers because it still says T-Motion on it. Like, and I promise you that. Like... Yeah, the T-Motion delete.
What do they call it? T-Motion what?
It's their highest level. They have 4 levels of T-Motion now, and the highest level of T-Motion that's on the expert is a T-Motion delete. It's literally just not.
But what
T-Motion.
Do they call it?
They call it T-Motion something 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 with an acronym behind it.
Can you imagine if they called what if they came out with a 850 Turbo X, but it wasn't really a turbo, but they still call it turbo?
Yeah. You're just bait and switching your customers.
Yeah, I mean,
which is illegal, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree, actually.
Well, Polaris did the same thing. They came out with
a Gen 5 next to a Gen 4, and the pyramid thing is still on the frickin' side of the sled, and the running boards look identical. And they still break off.
Yeah, it's not a new chassis in my opinion.
No.
In my opinion, if it's an actual chassis upgrade, the chassis is going to be different. And in this case, it's not.
It's not.
The panels are different. The bolt-on stuff is different. The headlights are different. They call it Gen 5. Yeah. But it's not really... when they came out with the original Rev chassis... Dude, that was a total game changer.
That changed sledding forever.
Yeah. And it was something that all the other manufacturers their heads were spinning. They had no idea what to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what do you think they'll change this year?
So on the Skidoo, man, that's a good question. I wouldn't.
It's kind of hard to read Skidoo because they don't spread rumors.
Yeah.
They just come out with shit.
Yeah, I think When did they come out with the Gen 5? Was it
2 years ago, I think.
okay?
Yeah, 2 seasons ago.
So I think because it's not a real chassis change, I think they're actually going to change the chassis, but not call it a chassis change. That's what I think. And I don't know if they're going to do that this year or next year, but I think that I don't think they can deny the tapered tunnel that Polaris has.
Yeah,
And
at some point they're going to have to copy that.
yeah. So I think they're going to come out with that either this year at 25 or 26. And I don't think they're going to call it a new chassis. But it will be a new chassis.
In that case, yes, it will be a new chassis.
So
because you're actually changing chassis components.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean, I don't know what to think with Skidoo. I mean, they change small things every single year. And they don't really go wrong with it. Like, they changed the Summit SP to the Summit Edge and things like that, you know, and changed some minor visuals here and there. But, you know, and that's honestly what I love about Skidoo is they don't really things that work.
Yeah.
They leave it alone.
Yeah.
You know. I'm kind of hoping they stay the same because I really, really, really am considering snow checking a turbo.
Oh, really?
Summit Expert.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
I would like to have a turbo sled for turbo days.
Yeah.
This year was not the year to have a turbo sled. So
Right.
I made the right choice last year not snow checking a turbo sled, I think. However, I would like to have a second sled in the stable because I only have one and it's a fucking chaos. That, you know, in deep powder is fucking chaotic. It's a lot of fun though because we actually had a somewhat deep day finally, and that was a fun day. I didn't realize that sled would be as capable as it is.
Still haven't seen deep snow though.
No,
I mean, you
not
still haven't
like
seen,
true deep.
Yeah.
Not like a true deep.
Yeah, you
day,
still haven't
but-
seen deep snow with it.
Yeah, I didn't think. I mean, I just didn't think with how it acts on not deep snow at all. I didn't think that it would climb anything.
Oh, yeah.
In like 3 feet of powder, I was like,
Yeah.
it ain't gonna do shit. Yeah, it climbs right up it. But yeah, I would like a turbo for the coming turbo days.
Turbos
They'll
are
come back.
Turbos are honestly the first year I had a turbo, it was like I had to learn how to ride a snowmobile all over again from day one.
Yeah.
It was like so hard to figure out. Because on an NA sled, you just like if it snows somewhat deep, you just keep it pinned, and if it starts to slow down, you go downhill. If it starts to speed up, you go uphill. And you just keep it pinned. It's one less thing you have to worry about, right?
Yeah.
With the turbo sled, I don't care how deep snow is, you're not going to keep it pinned.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And so it's definitely it's just one more thing. Like you have to have throttle control. You cannot just keep it pinned.
No.
I mean, even if it's so deep that you're not going to go anywhere, you will go over backwards.
Yeah.
At some point, you'll go over backwards.
Yeah.
So.
And that's something that I'm sure I'll run into.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, those Turbo Rs, they're 185 or 100, 200 something horsepower. I don't know. They're a lot.
Well, the other thing, talking about turbos, that I don't think a lot of people give enough credit for, is having a shorter, less lug and a shorter track. I mean, it takes away so much rotating weight, and it adds so much horsepower.
And that's something that I'm just going to have to live with. I mean, being that the Gen 5s only come with a 3-inch track.
Yeah.
Unless you get a 146, but I'm not getting a 146 turbo. I'll die. Like,
I think they might change that. So I think that's one thing they might change is go to a 2.5 like I have. I love my 2.5.
I don't know, man. Everybody's going to these gigantic tracks. I just don't see that happening. Like, I mean, Polaris went to the 325, which granted that seems to be a pretty badass track for,
for fluffy snow.
But we don't have fluffy snow over here. We need something. We need our snow chainsaws to be snow chainsaws over here because we actually have to cut the snow. And that's gonna bother me for sure. Not having a 2 3/4 or 2.5 track because I'm so used to having that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Skidoo's clutching's better than Polaris, so I'm sure it'll spin it up anyway.
I think I don't know if I'm gonna. I doubt. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm not going to make any decisions until all the reveals come about. One last thing I do want to say, since we're talking about Snowchecks, is we did apply for the Snowest, I don't know what they call it, but to go to the Skidoo reveal.
Yeah.
I think we're well qualified. If you'd like to do us a solid, you could go ahead and send Snowest Magazine a message and saying, hey, I think you should send the OK Riders guys.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to go to the reveal, and I think we would represent well, and I just think it would be cool, and we appreciate your vote. So there's not really a vote, but maybe send them a message and say, hey, the OK Riders guy said they applied for that, and I think they deserve it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun for us, and of course we'll, if we do go, then we'll be filming the whole, whatever we're allowed to film.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun, and I agree. I'm not going to fully commit to that until I see everything as well.
Yeah.
Just in case. There might be something cool. Maybe some other manufacturers will come out with something cool. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
So.
Maybe Predator from Harbor Freight will come out with a snowmobile.
I mean, dude, I'd be snow checking one in a heartbeat, man. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you're watching this, make sure to subscribe and give us a like. It means a lot to us, and
we would appreciate that.
Yeah. We'll see you in the next one.
We'll see you.